Back to the Revealed Report. I'm glad to be back on with you. I know it's been a little while since we've been on our regular routine Revealed Report, but we had such a wonderful time taking a little break away. I had to just take a little time away, spend a little time with the family and that, and enjoy my wife and kids, and make sure that they know that I'm still around. I've been enjoying so much time with the audience and everybody who has been tuning in, and I greatly appreciate your support. Yesterday, we had a special Revealed Report, which actually was just the streaming of the Lady Luck show, and it was a wonderful time of discussing really Candace Owens and the conspiracies and the grifting game that she is doing and the dangers of her conspiracies. And I had a wonderful time with Lady Luck. And if you are going to look for that episode, and I think it was great discussion, I would suggest everybody to really dive into listening to the material that was given, because we really go into it deeply to reveal what Candace Owens is doing, how she is playing this game. And we talk about what the motivation of that may be and what's the root cause of all of that. And I think it really gives good, clear details of what is going on and the dangers of those conspiracies, because it also shows the mask that she's hiding behind, because there for a long time, the government was lying to us left and right. And we had rightful justification to question the government, to question the narratives of the day. And usually they would call us conspiracy theorists, but usually the conspiracies were proven to be fact, usually about 6, 7, 8 months later. But now Candace Owens can hide behind all of that and say, see, since you're calling me a conspiracy theorist, it must be true. And we dive into a lot of that. We dive into the sensationalism of all of that, why so many people gravitate towards it. And I want to say Lady Luck has a wonderful show. If you ever want to check it out, the Lady Luck Club, go on there, give her your support. And she was wonderful to me, and all her fans, the Lucksters, they were absolutely wonderful to me. I have to say she has a wonderful audience, and she has a really good show, and she does a great job at calling out the sensationalism of the conspiracy theories that are being peddled today. And so I'm looking forward to future discussions. We talked about getting back together on a podcast again in the future. I greatly look forward to that. Well, speaking of grifters out there, I want to talk about Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. Of course, that's close to home for me. I'm in the state of Illinois. I know I'm in a communist state. I get it. But, J.B. Pritzker is today claiming that he had never, ever insinuated that Trump is Hitler. Here it is. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is now insisting he never said Trump is like Hitler. Well, I guess technically he's right that he didn't outright call him Hitler, because that's not how they play the game, just like Candace Owens. They insinuate whatever they want to insinuate. And then if you say that they said it, then they're going to say, no, I never outright said that. And so let's look at some things he has said, though. Number one, February 19, 2025, the State of the State and Budget Address in Springfield, Pritzker delivered one of the most overt comparisons ever made by a sitting U.S. governor. Speaking directly about Trump's America, he warned, I quote, I do not invoke the specter of Nazis lightly. First of all, that's a lie. All the Democrats do. But I know the history intimately and have spent more time than probably anyone in this room with people who survived the Holocaust, end quote. Then came the timeline comparison. I quote, it took the Nazis 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 days, 8 hours, and 40 minutes to dismantle a constitutional republic, end quote. He warned Illinois lawmakers about, quote, the seeds of distrust and hate and blame, end quote, and called what was happening in the United States eerily similar to the early days of Hitler's regime. Local media from WTTW Chicago to Fox 32 covered the speech as a direct Trump-Hitler parallel. Number two, and there's many of these that we can go through. I'm just going to go through a few of them. Number two, the authoritarian playbook is laid bare here. In that same February 2025 address, Pritzker escalated his claim by accusing Trump of using fascist tactics. The quote, the authoritarian playbook is laid bare here. They point to a group of people who don't look like you and tell you to blame them for your problems, end quote, which is amazing because most of them are anti-Israel and they're doing the exact same thing. He capped the moment with a flourish of defiance. We don't have kings in America, and I don't intend to bend the knee to one. For a man who now insists he never compared Trump to Hitler or fascism, that's quite a contradiction. Number three, he fans the flames of division. This is his quote, September 15, 2025, WTTW interview. Pritzker once again tied Trump's actions to authoritarian control. I quote, we never really know what he intends to do. He fans the flames of division. He weaponizes fear the same way dangerous regimes of the past have. End quote. While he avoided the H word this time, Hitler, the implication was unmistakable, warning that Trump's behavior mirrors regimes who use division and dehumanization as precursors to dictatorship. Now, I want to stop on that moment because it was the radical left that was actually pushing fear and division all through COVID-19 and all through the George Floyd madness, the BLM and the Antifa riots. Everything they claim that Trump is doing, they're doing themselves. They created a two-tier justice system. They began to make everybody begin to question everybody who just was coughing inside of a store. Maybe they got COVID-19. Maybe they're going to get us all sick. Maybe they're going to drop the COVID bomb on us and kill all of us. I remember once upon a time that we used to go to work even sick. We had a hard work ethic. There was many times we would have the flu and we would go to work and work through it, and that was considered to be pretty normal. But then all of a sudden, people would cough and everybody looked at them funny as if, okay, do they have COVID? And then begin to demonize them for potentially having a sickness that they couldn't help if they even had. They caused all types of division. They're the ones that stoked the flames of racial division to try to divide the races against one another, who took critical theory, made a critical race theory to try to uproot the system. They are always trying to cause division. They're always stoking the flames of racial division and all types of different things. And yet they claim that Trump is doing that the entire time. Now, it's amazing to me because they called Trump a fascist. Now you find that JB Pritzker is lying about it. He's saying, I never claimed that he's Hitler. I never insinuated that he's Hitler, which is an outright bold-faced lie, which is something the radical left has no problem doing. This is why them and Islamists have no problem getting along with one another, not only because they're anti-America and anti-Israel, but also because they have the same playbook. They have the same tactics. They have no problem lying to their political or spiritual or economical opposition to try to push their narrative and to push their ideology upon everybody. The Islamists believe that they can lie to infidels for the cause of pushing Sharia law in all the world. And the radical left believes they can lie to people to try to push their Marxist and fascistic blended ideology in all of the institutions of America. It's the exact same playbook. What happens is they'll say things, but they don't outright say it. They insinuate it, leading the people to know exactly what they're saying. So then when you call them out on it, they backpedal and say, I never said that. But that's exactly what they were insinuating. They've been calling Trump Hitler fascist for a long time. Let's go through a few more of these, and then I'm going to explain to you exactly why JB Pritzker is backing up. And he's not going to be the only liberal far leftist that's going to do it. They're all going to do this. This is going to be the tactic of all the left because they act in unison, because they put the party above everything. They even put the party above America and above the people. Just like Marxists, just like fascists, their ideology is more important than all their little squabbles, and it's more important than the general public. And so therefore they will set aside all their differences and they'll come together for the common cause, which is to uproot the American system and to replace it with their blended globalistic and fascistic ideology. So they will put party above people, and they will put their ideology above the American hurting people that need to be risen up to the American dream. They have no problem with that. Their ideology is what matters the most, and they're willing to set aside their differences. That's why they get along with Islamists, even though they have nothing in common, because they'll set aside all of their differences to uproot the system. And so let's go through a few more. November 2023, interview cited by The Guardian. Pritzker told reporters Trump's rhetoric was dangerous for our democracy and dangerous for specific minority groups in the U.S. The Guardian headline captured it succinctly. Pritzker, Trump's rhetoric reminiscent of Nazi era, end quote. The outlet quoted him as saying the tone of Trump's movement reminds him of the propaganda of the polarization that defined Germany in the 1930s. Here's another one, February 2025, Capital News, Illinois. After public backlash over his Nazi comparisons, Pritzker backpedaled. I have never called Republicans Nazis, and I've only called for peaceful demonstration. And so, what is causing the backpedaling right now? They have been adamant that we are the Gestapo, that we are the 1938 brown shirt Nazis and fascists. So, why are they backpedaling now? And simultaneously, not only are they backpedaling on this, they're also backpedaling on climate change, believe it or not. Let me give you what Bill Gates is saying. So, you find that Bill Gates has been a pusher of the climate change ideology, that we're all going to be nuked down by climate change. It used to be global warming, then it became global cooling, and now it's climate change because it just shifts with the narrative. And they redefine the language however they have to control the narrative and control the culture. And that's exactly what you see continuously coming out of the radical left. Now, from Fox News, Bill Gates softened stance on climate change risks, sparking criticism on social media. I quote, Microsoft co-founder and billionaire philanthropist Bill Gates' new remarks on climate change surprised many social media users Tuesday. In a new blog post, Gates appeared to soften his stance on climate change, writing that the doomsday view of climate change, in which global catastrophe would occur if rising global temperatures aren't addressed, I quote, Bill Gates, is wrong, end quote. Here's another quote. Fortunately for all of us, this view is wrong. Although climate change will have serious consequences, particularly for people in the poorest countries, it will not lead to the humanity's demise, Gates said. The view appears to be a departure from his previous statements on climate change, which evoked a sense of alarmism. The New York Post wrote Tuesday that Gates once said that climate change could be worse than the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, it was only 0.02% of the general public that actually was going to die. And usually you had to have 4 more comorbidities or better. So they pushed lies on both of them. So I don't know, maybe they're in close competition with one another. I continue the quote from this article. The outlet also reminded readers that Gates once said that avoiding a climate change disaster will be one of the greatest challenges humans have ever taken on, greater than the landing on the moon, greater than eradicating smallpox, even greater than putting a computer on every desk, end quote. Gates critics and other social media users found the billionaire's apparent shift on the topic to be remarkable. So why is J.B. Pritzker and the radical left backpedaling on calling Trump and all of us Nazis? And why is Bill Gates backpedaling on his climate change ideology? It's because none of it's working anymore. See, the game and the playbook for them, ever since really the Kirk and Mattson days when they were pushing homosexuality on the American public by calling us Nazis and trying to get us to soften our convictions to allow us to go on the slippery slope of accepting everything that we once didn't agree with, all the way to the point now that we see the LGBTQ2 plus movement pushing all their ideology on us because it's a slippery, digressive slope that continues to go down into a dystopian hell. But you see, the way they do this is they call us Nazis. They call us fascists. They call us every extreme thing. They call us racist. During COVID-19 and the George Floyd riots, to be called racist was the worst thing to be called. And yet Republicans and people on the conservative side of the aisle would play into that because they're cowardice, because they don't have a spine. We don't need to worry about all the labels they give us. Eventually the lie and the cover gets blown. We just need to stand true to the conviction, and time will reveal truth. Time will reveal who's on the side of right and who's on the side of wrong. That's why we don't let them control the narrative and control who we are and how we operate. We don't need to be intimidated by the pitchfork mob. And if we are willing to sell ourselves out because we're intimidated, then what does that send to, what signal does that send to our children and our grandchildren? How can they respect us, especially in a land where people were willing to pledge their fortune, their lives, their sacred honor to fight for liberty and freedom? And yet now we're going to be cowardice because somebody might say we're a racist, which is absolutely not the truth, coming from the real racists themselves. The reason why they're backpedaling on all of this is because it's not working like it once did. They were calling us everything extreme and they were controlling the media at one time, and there was nobody that could fight against it. But you can see that trust in mainstream media has been tanking out, and independent voices are beginning to rise up every single day and grabbing some of the attention that was once to the mainstream media. So they can't control us anymore. Now Trump goes out on Truth Social. Before that, it was Twitter X. He's having interviews all the time. He's letting them fly with them on Air Force One and giving interviews all the time because he's slashing through all the lies of the mainstream media. They don't get to control the narrative anymore, and it's not working. Even Harry Denton on CNN, which I'm surprised he's still there, even he said, talking about whether or not the government shutdown's hurting the GOP or not. Is it hurting them? And of course, Harry Denton's very lively, and he's like, "It's not shutting down. It's not closing down the GOP's. It's not tanking their ratings, and the government shutdown's not hurting the GOP. The GOP overall is 2 points up, and the GOP in Congress, they're 5 points up." He's, I get a kick out of him. He's very animated, and honestly, he's the entertainer over there at CNN. He's probably one of the only things they have going for him. But Harry Denton is telling us that the government shutdown is not hurting the GOP. As a matter of fact, they are becoming more popular, which proves what I've been saying for many, many years, that people want people that are strong in leadership, not weak cowards, not people that bend to the pressure of the radical left, not people that bend to the pressure of mainstream media, not people that bend to the pressure of all the lies that are being told because they're going to call us Nazis and fascists and the Gestapo, or they're going to call us racist, or the Ku Klux Klan 2.0. When you are a coward, nobody wants to vote for you. Nobody trusts you to be a leader. We don't want weak people as leaders. We want strong people. And that's why they're gravitating to Donald Trump. There's people that don't even like how Trump talks, but they'll gravitate towards him because he shows strength. We want strength in leadership because it's stability. It's like a woman who wants to marry a man who is not just an emotional train wreck all the time, who is not emotionally weak all the time, who is somebody that she knows that's going to take care of her, that's going to fight every day to make sure that her and the kids are taken care of. And you even find that some women will gravitate towards abusive men. I'm not saying that's right, but they'll gravitate towards abusive jerks sometimes because they're strong and they still have some form of stability. Now, that's not a good thing, but it just shows you that people will gravitate towards strength. And so when leaders are weak, people begin to pull back from them. A big reason that people didn't want Lion Joe Biden was not all the stupid things that he was doing and all the things to deteriorate our country. It was also because of his weakness, because of his incompetency. When he walked out on that debate stage and he looked like a frail dead man who's just been injected with something just to keep him moving for a little while, that was a point that people began to turn from Joe Biden. But look, when people started turning towards Donald Trump, what was really the nail in the coffin for Trump to become the president of the United States? It's when they tried to assassinate him. The bullet hits his ear. He's on the ground with blood flowing, and then he gets up and he pumps his fist and says, "Fight, fight, fight, fight." And when he did that, that's when many people turned towards President Trump. Why? Because he declared strength. He showed strength, and people will gravitate towards strong leaders. That's why the GOP is not being hurt because of the government shutdown. First of all, the radical left no longer controls all the media space. Second of all, the right is not weak anymore. They're showing strength, and people are gravitating towards that. And because all of the tricks and all of the weaponization of all the trickery against the GOP, against Donald Trump from the radical left is no longer working like it once did. People are no longer buying into it. Honestly, they have over inundated the general public with the term Nazi until it means nothing anymore. Fascist, the term means nothing anymore. And I have a problem with that. The terminology racist doesn't mean anything anymore to most of the general public. Now, I have a problem with that because they water down words, and when they really do need to be used, they have no value or any weight anymore. They mean nothing because they've been overused by the radical left in the mind of the general public. So the general public don't care to hear it anymore. When you say it, it's like just whitewash noise. It has no meaning anymore. So it's not working. And so now everything is collapsing on them like a house of cards. So now they have to shift from the narrative. So now they can't peddle climate change anymore because really most people aren't really concerned about it. Most of the people that are concerned about it is these people that went to some radicalized college university where some 1960 hippified professor that looks like he has bloodshot eyes, like he's been stoned for the last 3 hours, that look like he walked out of a cave or a Volkswagen van, that's going to start trying to teach your kids about how the end of the world is coming, I don't know, 12 years ago from climate change. Those are the only people that's really being seduced by it for the most part. Most people don't really care. They want to try to feed their families. They want to try to bring a paycheck home. They want to try to make sure there's clothes on their kids. They want to make sure that they're living a quiet and peaceable life. And we're not entering into World War III. Or we're not trying to go to some globalist agenda where you can't even have a gas oven anymore, or you can't have a gasoline vehicle anymore, that everybody has to have electric vehicles. And somehow we're not going to have brownouts and blackouts on our electric grid. People are not really so concerned about climate change. And even the ones that do believe in climate change, that is low on their priority list. It was the young people that they were trying to teach that it's doomsday. And now they can see there's bad ramifications. They have created depression in young people over a monster that doesn't even exist. They have created a boogeyman behind everything. And they're saying the end of the world is coming every year, and it never comes. Well, after a while, they're beginning to turn from that. But I remember it was just a couple years back, young married people said they weren't even going to have kids because they didn't want to bring their kids up in a culture where there's going to be climate catastrophe. I mean, how radically ignorant is that? All the ramifications, they see that, and people are tired of living in fear. For the first time, they can live in more peace. They don't have to live with a fearful narrative being shoved down their throat every single day. But now you have a party that's actually promoting hope. They're promoting a dream. They're promoting a future. They're promoting things that are positive and things that are good. And so people are gravitating towards that. And because the radical left is losing their grip on the general public, they have to change the narrative. So now what's going to happen? J.B. Pritzker is leading the charge. All the radical left's going to start doing it for the most part, except for some of the idiots that can't figure out how to play the game. All of a sudden, they're going to start backpedaling on their fascistic claims, their Nazi claims, their Gestapo claims, their Ku Klux Klan claims, their white supremacy claims, their racist claims. They're going to backpedal on that. They're going to backpedal on climate change, going to destroy the world for a little while. Now, mark my words. I guarantee you, I promise you, it's not going away forever. What they'll do is they'll hide that in a corner until the general public is no longer being over inundated with it. And when they see that it's fit for them to bring that narrative back to the table discussion where it's going to have weight and it's going to have value to the discussion and it's going to have grip on the American people, they will go pull that out of the locker room. They'll go pull that off the dusty shelf. They'll wipe the dust off of it and they'll bring that narrative right back to the general public and they'll push that narrative again. That's like COVID-19. Don't think that they're not going to try to push that again. They're just waiting for the general public to be able to receive it again, which, by the way, I did hear an ironic story. I'll just inject this. Did you all hear the story about these diseased monkeys? Sorry, I'm catching a rabbit here, or a monkey. Did you hear the story about these diseased monkeys that are in, I guess they're just running around in Mississippi because a truck flipped them over, a truck, I guess they fell off a truck. And what it is like gain and function research in America. I don't think they're calling it gain and function research, for the cause of like vaccine studies and all of that. And they're loose out there. So, which thank God the radical left is not in charge, because now all of a sudden we'd be shutting down the country because we got diseased monkeys running all over the place. Don't think that the COVID-19 narrative in that is not going to be attempted again. What they do is they push the general public to the breaking point. How far can we push them? How far can we push our narrative? How much compliance can we get? And when they know they pushed you to the line, or they feel like they might have pushed you a little over the line, they'll back up. They'll back up. And then they'll push again. Because what happens is this used to be the line, then they push you further and they back up. and you come back, but you don't come, the culture doesn't come all the way back to where it once was. And then they push you again. And then you come back and they keep pushing you until you're no longer here. You're way over here in radical land, and they've taken so much territory. They've taken and infiltrated all types of systems, education and the private sector and corporations and higher education and at one time government and even judges and that. They push it as far as they can push it. And when they get you to the breaking point, they back it up. They go put the narrative or the story or the approach on some shelf somewhere. It gets dusty for a while, but they remember exactly where it's at. And when the time is fitting that they feel like they can use it again, they go grab it, they wipe the dust off, and they bring it right back, and they try to deceive the general public all over again. This is how the radical left operates. And, now we see this with Candace Owens, and this is kind of what we were talking about on the Lady Luck show, and it was a fabulous show. I want to thank Lady Luck again for allowing me to come on there. So the left is losing their grip. That's why they're changing the narrative. That's why they're changing the story. That's why they're backing up on these things. Now, that is not the key story I really wanted to get to. The key story I want to get to is what Donald Trump is doing right now. So for all the people that said I was wrong about tariffs, because I was defending tariffs from the moment that Trump was trying to put down tariffs. I was told that it's going to hurt the global trade. I was told that it was going to hurt America, that we're going to become isolationists and nobody's going to play ball with us. It's going to push everybody to China and all of these other things, that it's going to crush all of our businesses and that. And I said, you guys always question Trump. The radical left never trust him on anything. They call him a madman, and they say it so much that there are people on the right that forget how many times we questioned him, how many times we said it could never happen, it's going to crush everything, and he comes out and he has a clever playbook that none of us seen. I said the exact same thing is going to happen with the pushing of tariffs, and I did a whole episode on why I support tariffs and why I believe that tariffs can economically save America. But this is how Trump operates. He operates on the art of a deal. He begins to push the extreme because then he brings people to the table to begin to negotiate with them. And so it's just a tactic because he knows most of the countries need America. They need trade with us. They need our produce. They need our money. They need to be able to have trade with us. He knows that. So he applies a lot of pressure. He puts out the extreme. He brings them to the table, and then he begins to negotiate. And we can see that Trump is using this to win the AI race. And part of winning the AI race is having rare earth minerals. He has to have rare earth minerals to win the AI race. And winning the AI race is an extremely important thing, because if we lose that to China becomes the superpower of the world, and their currency will become the superpower currency of the world. It's very, very important that we win the AI race. I know we have concerns about AI. I have concerns about AI as well, but it's an inevitable reality. AI is coming. We can't stop it, and it's not coming. It's here, and we can't stop it. So we have to be the ones to win if we're going to stay the superpower of the world. I would rather have the United States of America and whatever resemblance we have of America's founding to have the superpower over China under a communist regime where they have to have underground church at. And so what did Trump do? And also rare earth minerals is more than just AI. It's military, it's vehicles, it's microwaves, it's computers, it's vehicles nowadays. And so we must have rare earth minerals. So Trump began to use tariffs to bring people to the table, and the negotiation is for us to get rare earth minerals, to break people from being dependent upon China, including ourselves. And what he's doing is he's pulling countries away from China and he's pulling them towards us. And I put out a Revealed Dispatch article today on this, in which I would like to read to you. That Revealed Dispatch article is entitled "Trump's Tariff Tactics Forge a Global Rare Earth Alliance." And I quote, "When President Donald J. Trump said they threaten us with rare earths and I threatened them with tariffs, few realized how prophetic that one line would become. What began as a trade strategy to protect American jobs has evolved into a multi-national alliance spanning the Indo-Pacific reshaping the global balance of industrial power. For decades, China monopolized the rare earth market, controlling more than 90% of global refining. Those minerals crucial for everything from fighter jets and missiles to semiconductors and electrical vehicles became Beijing's silent weapon. Trump saw through it. Instead of yielding to economic coercion, he turned tariffs into tools of leverage, using economic pressure to realign the world's supply chains around freedom rather than communism. Japan, from trade threats to trusted partner. The first breakthrough came on October 28, 2025, when Trump and Japan's new Prime Minister, Sanae Takai, sorry, my best impression, signed the framework for securing the supply of critical minerals and rare earths through mining and processing at Tokyo's Akasaka Palace. Sorry, I'm trying to be good at my impressions. I'm working on them. Bear with me. Japan agreed to deepen cooperation with the U.S. in mining, processing, and stockpiling critical minerals, while committing nearly $400 billion in U.S.-based investments in energy and manufacturing. The context was clear. Tokyo faced a looming 25% tariff. After joining the alliance, it walked away with a 15% rate and a guaranteed partnership. Tariffs created the urgency. Diplomacy built the bridge. Australia, securing the free world's mine. A week earlier, Trump signed an $8.5 billion framework with Australia, focusing on expanding mining and refining projects for rare earth elements like neodymium and other key elements to our U.S. defense systems and energy tech. Australia initially sought tariff exemptions on steel and aluminum. The Trump administration refused until Canberra pledged to move refining capacity out of Chinese dependency and guarantee supply to America. The result, a resource-rich ally becoming the free world's largest contributor to non-Chinese rare earth supply, and a stronger AUKUS partnership fortified by trade realism, not bureaucratic appeasement. Ukraine, reconstruction with strategic purpose. In April 2025, the U.S. and Ukraine launched the United States-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund. The agreement ensures American support for rebuilding war-torn infrastructure while giving the U.S. preferred access to Ukraine's mineral exploration and future extraction rights. Ukraine's vast natural resources are now being tied into a larger Western supply chain network. Though not a top rare earth exporter yet, its partnership represents a strategic foothold in Eastern Europe and a symbolic rejection of Moscow's resource blackmail. Southeast Asia steps in: Thailand, Malaysia, Cambodia, and Vietnam. Watch this. He's pulling them all away from China. Trump's Indo-Pacific pivot didn't stop at traditional allies. Southeast Asia is quietly becoming the next engine of resource diversification. Thailand signed a memorandum to process heavy rare earths and build joint manufacturing plants with U.S. companies, reducing Beijing's dominance in refining. Malaysia, long known for tin and rare earth residues, is reopening extraction sites under new environmental and security standards aligned with U.S. trade frameworks. Cambodia has granted early-stage exploration permits to U.S.-backed firms for lithium and rare earth prospects, part of its economic diversification away from Chinese lending dependence. Vietnam, already home to one of the world's largest untapped rare earth deposits, finalized talks with American developers to build refining facilities that bypass China's intermediaries altogether. Together, these four nations are becoming what one analyst called the new Indo-Pacific mineral corridor, stretching from Bangkok to Hanoi, all within the gravitational pull of America's tariff-forged alliance. Tariffs as negotiation, not punishment. This is what many didn't understand. Globalists still don't understand Trump's methods. Tariffs weren't about isolationism. They were about leverage. By wielding tariffs as temporary pressure, Trump opened doors that decades of soft diplomacy never could. Each nation, Japan, Australia, Ukraine, Thailand, Malaysia, Cambodia, and Vietnam, came to the table under tariff tension, but left with a partnership that benefits both sides. The U.S. secured critical resources, and allies gained market access, investment, and protection under a shared security vision. The strategic ripple effect. For the first time in modern history, America is building an economic defense parameter around its industrial future. This is like the Industrial Revolution all over again, the AI revolution. By combining tariffs, trade deals, and strategic alliances, Trump has set off a supply chain revolution that weakens China's monopoly and strengthens the free world's independence. These agreements aren't just trade documents, they're declarations of economic sovereignty. They prove that leadership grounded in strength can accomplish what weakness never will. The world's rare earth future no longer runs through Beijing, it runs through the American led alliance of freedom, faith, and free enterprise. And so many don't understand Donald Trump. And they also said that he's just trying to, he's an imperialist. He's just trying to take over the world. He's like Adolf Hitler trying to take over all of Europe because he wants Greenland. What they didn't understand is Greenland is rich with rare earth minerals. That's what it was all about. And he was trying to negotiate with them because if we purchased them, we would get our investment back and we would have rare earth minerals and we would be able to separate the world from China's monopoly and all of their destroying the very way that trade is supposed to take place. And they have no problem tariffing us, but yet they cry wolf when we tariff them and the world comes to China's aid rather than America's aid. And so now what Trump is doing is building a strong nation for the future, for the saving of America, so that we do not lose our superpower status, so that we do not migrate from the US dollar or whatever form it would be to a currency that is built on evil dictators that come together. That the mix between Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, Iran, a big funder of world or a big funder of state terrorism around the world. That's what he's protecting us from. And the whole time he's called a nationalist fascist monster. The history books are going to show that he was trying to spare America from our future destruction. He was not using tariffs just to try to punish people. He was using tariffs to bring them to the table of discussion, debate, and most of all, the table of making a deal. And that deal was rare earth minerals, win the AI race, be able to build our defense system, be able to have be the leading vehicles and electronics and all of those things. So America has a strong financial future. So for all of those that are worried about the gas prices not coming down right away, for all of those that are worried about the grocery prices not coming down all the way, you're wanting a short-term satisfaction at a long-term cost. Trump is playing a long-term game so that we don't just get short-term satisfaction at a long-term cost, but rather that we have long-term stability. That's why we need to pray for the president. That's why we need to support the president. I'm not saying that I agree with everything all the time, but he's doing the greatest good for America that I've seen in all my lifetime. And there's nobody better on the opposite side. Tomorrow we may dive into the Mom Donnie lies and his grift, and we might talk about the New York City mayoral race. But we're out of time today. Thank you for tuning in to the Revealed Report. Thank you for those that support us with your prayers and just support us all around. We sure do love our audience, and we appreciate you very much. Once again, if you didn't catch it yesterday, I was on the Lady Luck Club show. It was a wonderful discussion with her. Looking forward to future opportunities. God bless. We know the church will be standing tomorrow. Jesus said, upon this rock, the gates of hell shall not prevail against the church. But if the republic has not totally been burnt down yet, America, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night.